Help is on the way.
Tell me about the gazelle.
Well, maybe I was a gazelle because I crossed the desert in 2 days with just a bottle of goat's milk and some warm clothing. A gazelle, swift, so swift. You can't catch me.
To the dying Gulf of Mexico in the Fukushima rain, I can feel the mountains tremble. I know love will win again. No matter who opposes love, still love will find a way to break our hearts and asses while it finds a place to stay. I've been hungry for the homeland. I've been gone for lifetimes by. Now I see the flames that flicker in the fireplace tonight.
This video is dedicated to the healers out there and anyone who's interested in that path or has been on that path, or maybe finding themselves kind of hearing about that or learning about it in some way. And there's anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about healing anyway, and how that works and what happens to a certain degree anyway. Many teachers often recommend to allow the divine to do the healings for you and not really let your ego get involved in the process of trying to take that upon yourself as though you're the authority on those subjects, or that you have the knowledge and understanding on how to do that properly. Because sometimes people, their love for others shines, and they may not even realize that what they're doing is their own personal agenda or their own desire to want to help and heal others. And in a way that can be very, very, very beautiful and lovely, and I have no problem with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, people who have the Kundalini active may find that through their trial and error, and through their practices and through their experience, that the act of healing and trying to heal others may end up causing them problems. And Jesus Christ is a great example of one who took upon himself much of the karma of a lot of people out there, and ended up burning that himself. And the same thing happened to many teachers over the various lifetimes they've been around, taking upon themselves the karma of their students or of other people they were seeking to heal. And the divine may allow people to do that. They may have inherently within them this very skills to be able to do that themselves. And just by knowing and having the right knowledge and information, this may very well, it certainly will. It'll help people so that, they can avoid some of the potential pitfalls and problems that may arise on the healer's path. So, karma. I guess I could go into that a little bit. Karma. We live in a predatory world. We live in a world where everything that lives feeds off of other living forces, either through the act of killing that, or parasitizing that, or maybe perhaps in a more symbiotic way. But in the end, it's in like a way where you're loving the other creatures or plants or animals or anything you're consuming. There's a lot of people out there who are actively engaged in that through farming, through their practices, and there's good ways to do it and there's bad ways to do it. There's healthy ways, there's harmful ways, there's ignorant ways, and there's thoughtful ways, there's wise ways of doing it. And of course the wise way is always treating others the way you would like to be treated in the end, so that you end up, well, typically anyway, that's the way I recommend people to live. If you want to live a healthy, happy life, you want to feel good, you should treat others that way as well. And the same thing goes for all of life. Every form of life here feeds off everything else. You go right down to the smallest single-celled organism to the largest creatures on this earth. They all feed off of plants, animals, whatever. They're all living creatures, and each of us have been those at one point or another in previous lives, maybe billions of lives or trillions of lives ago we may have been. Even going all the way back, you could say perhaps even a neutrino. You know, and over many, many lives, we slowly change and evolve, and the divine is the driving force for that entire process, and we end up becoming what we become, and as we are now, as a higher life form on this earth, if you want to see it that way. We have the capacity to do many things. We have a lot of, responsibility on our shoulders to a certain degree, anyway, for maintaining a healthy balance within ourselves, within our environment, with each other, with life on Earth in general. And a lot of what we've seen over many lives people are going through are karmic dispensations from the predatory qualities of nature that people have been engaged in as these various creations they have been in other lives. That's just part of life. Without that aspect of creation, we wouldn't even exist. There's a balance to everything. Everything that lives dies. Everything that lives feeds off other living forms of life. Or the only species that do not do that are bacteria and fungi. Typically, they can consume like rocks and whatnot. They can break down through the release of enzymes and whatnot the mineral content in rocks and stones and other forms of mineral content in the earth. And these things are they're very simple creations. They're very small. They're very, very, very beautiful, lovely creatures that don't really harm others. Typically, that's just some species. I mean, there's many different species of those guys too that do all kinds of things as well that are harmful to other life. Without all of that life, we wouldn't even be here. Everything, everywhere is helping everything and holding everything in balance. It's part of all that is, and that's just part of one of the qualities of what it means to be a living in the physical realm. So, so for us, we need to understand and respect that, and understand that that's part of life for the most part. I mean, a tiger can't necessarily choose at the current moment, or any life form for that matter, whether or not it wants to be able to harm or kill things. Some of them may have the choice and may intentionally want to do things in a beautiful way and loving way and try to kill their prey as quickly as they can instead of harming it in any way. Typically, the karma comes back in very gentle ways. It's not like everything comes back all at once for most people. It does, though, and it does culminate, and sometimes a lot of karma comes back and balances all at once. Sometimes it comes back slowly. It depends on everything, really. There's so many factors involved. It's amazing. So for us as human beings, if we want to live, especially Kundalini people who have a lot of power, a lot of ability, a lot of radiance, a lot of influence through just their thoughts even, and their ability to judge others even, every little thing may have a profound effect on their personal well-being. And so largely what I recommend people do is try their best to maintain a state of high morals, ethics, and love every form of creation out there, every form of life, and everything you consume. It's important to see that as yourself, perhaps even, and respect that and see it as like a divine sustenance. It's part of what keeps you alive, and you are that for everything else too, in a way. Well, mostly bacteria and other forms of life, but yeah, there's all kinds of other forces out there beyond the physical as well. And I don't personally like being consumed and eaten alive. The body naturally has defense mechanisms. We all do. There's many reasons to defend yourself, and I recommend you do that as best you can, as peaceful way as you can, unless you're going through a lot of stuff. The only thing you got to keep in mind is that a lot of the stuff that people have gone through in other lives is karmic in nature, and if you're seeing people around you who are hurt or harmed, or they may have broken limbs, broken neck, blind, they may be blind, and a lot of these things may be huge karmic dispensations from previous lifetimes. And that could have been when they were a tiger clawing out the eyes of one of his victims. It could have been from anything at any point, or a cumulative dispensation from another time. And by you trying to go in and just heal that person, you may end up interfering with that natural cosmic law of natural balance taking place, and in the process taking that and accumulating that and bringing that into yourself and burning that out yourself. And yeah, that's happened to a lot of Kundalini people, I believe, over many lives. And I'll ask you, my Kundalini and me, did this happen to me, and how long, and what happened to me? And she's talking now, so basically, yeah, basically you've been through about 1,003 lifetimes worth of the burning of the karma, and most of those lives are very short, and they were mostly just a version of life in which you showed up and you were able to burn off things in very quick fashion in the womb, where you weren't even aware of what was going on very much, but a lot of that stuff was very painful, and your energy levels and everything were going up and down, and you're going through all that for thousands of years until finally you managed to make it to an age where you survived and you figured it all out, and this is it here and now you finally are opening up to people for the first time in that whole time, after that whole experience, and now you're finally telling people what is going on, and most people will not understand this or even want to know about it, but there's a reason why I'm saying this, and it's because that people who are healers should be very mindful of what's being said here, so that that you don't end up going through the same kind of thing, and I don't expect you or others to, and I don't think it's necessary. I think that kind of thing happens once in a while, maybe to a few people, but it's not necessarily going to happen to everyone. And yeah, the more people hear this kind of information and hear it from somebody who's been there, the more people are going to be more mindful about how they do their healings and things like that in a very safe and healthy way, so that they don't end up hurting from them. And there's a good reason to do that, and that is to maintain a healthy mind state. So well, yeah, and physical body and everything else, in order for you to be able to function and be able to do the things that you love the most in life. And that's very important. And those things are, for example, like like selfless service, art, anything to do with creativity, music, whatever, devotion, etc. It could be anything, literally. And if you're burning out other people's karma and trying to heal from all of that stuff, that can be very difficult. So you got to keep that in mind and make sure that what you're doing is done in a very safe and healthy way. And there's ways you can do that, and I've shared a lot of them here. And there's other ways I'm sure other people will come up with too, of their own, that they can use, that they will find will help them with healing others and themselves, etc. And the divine will allow people to go through that, because the divine is you, and you are the divine, and you are able to do that kind of thing. And sometimes people don't know what's happening to them, and they're not allowed to or supposed to, and the divine lets them go through things like that. And there's a reason for that, and it's because the divine is not like what you will ever understand or dream of, and it's not what you want to know about entirely sometimes, because it's too beautiful, and it's too, sometimes it can be very, very hard on people like that. So you got to be very careful and very mindful about how you go about doing these kind of things, and make sure that what you're doing is safe and healthy. And yeah, there's teachers out there who apparently use entities, ETs, other forces in the universe to get rid of that karma, and I'm sure it's possible. But there's reasons why it exists, and it's important for people to realize that to a degree this karma is there for a reason, and people need it, and it's there to teach them and allow things to even exist, because without that we wouldn't be here. So if you keep on getting rid of all that karma, there's nothing wrong with that, actually. You could keep on doing that as much as you want, burning it in different ways, through Kriya Yoga, through meditation, through mantra, through all kinds of things. And all of those different techniques will really, really, really help you get rid of that stuff in different ways, depending on how you do it and where your mind is and what you believe. But I know it's possible for people to move through that kind of thing and heal from it. You just got to realize some people took on a lot more than they thought or understood at the time, and maybe they figured it out at some point and decided, yeah, maybe it's time that I leave and I'm going to go in a big bang, with a big bang. And that might have been what happened to Jesus, because he was talking about how much pain he was in shortly before he passed away. And he pretty much kind of went along with the whole plan for his death, because he didn't want to, well, because he cared so much and loved people so much, his ego wasn't at all in the way of doing anything he was doing, except, when you're going through that kind of process and you're being actually murdered, and killed, yeah, your ego, your everything isn't going to want to go through that. Yeah, your ego, you can say whatever you want about your ego is everything you are, pretty much. It's just a lens. It's your identity. It's like your identification of what is and isn't, what you want, what you don't want, who you are, what you think is you and what you think is outside of you, what you think is what you like and what you think you don't like, etc. All of that is your ego. Most people don't like being cut up. I mean, there's verbal assaults, there's all kinds of things that can happen, but when it comes to like being killed or burning out like thousands of lives worth of karma for other people, yeah, that can be a very intense process, and that can take a long time to heal from. So people want to be very mindful and very, very, very careful how it is they go about doing what they do to try and help others in certain circumstances. Chances are most people out there are not quite at that level where they're able to change things literally in every way for other people, but there's a reason for all that. And some of you may have that ability, and if you do, then you got to be very careful about your skills and make sure what you're doing is karmically safe and not going to hurt yourself or others. And if you're careful, you're probably not going to have any issues. And there's ways you can do that. You just got to talk to your Kundalini and make sure that she's helping you in ways so that your energy that you put out for prayers, healings, etc., are not going to cause any harm. There's nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. You just need to trust and rely upon the divine to do the work for you, to do the healing for you. And that is all there is to it. It's that simple. Okay, so when it comes to like trying to change people and pray for others and really like get, say, people healed, or on the right track, yeah, a lot of people don't necessarily want to change, and sometimes prayers may work in many different ways depending on what you do. They may go through the person and try and convince them to do different things, or force them to change until they have no choice. Another way is you can pray that whatever it is you're praying for them will come to them in the perfect moment for them, that where it works best for them, so that you're not trying to force them to change, or it won't cause them any harm in any negative way. It'll come to them in a positive way that doesn't have any negative karmic implications, that will be there for them in those moments that are most helpful for them, in the most beautiful way for them. Things like that can really, really help those people in a very powerful and very beautiful way. And these things will go out there and really help people. So these kind of things you got to be mindful about. If you have those powers, and if it is true that you're going through these things and that you are, trying to heal people and change their free will and force people into positions of change, you got to be very careful, because it'll do the same thing to you in some way or another. Your karma is what you dish is what you get. There's good reasons for a lot of that too. There's no reason for people not to do that in certain ways, and certainly overall, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But there's the problem with certain people is that they don't really realize or understand quite the degree of their power, the degree of their abilities to be able to change things around them and influence people in different ways. And they may very well have certain skills that allow them to literally manipulate and change other people's lives like that. And if people are going through a lot of karma, let's say it's karmic, what they're going through in nature, and there's a lot of stuff coming back, and it's a big cumulative dispensation from many lives ago. If you can heal them and take away all of their cut, their wounds, maybe the cut alone was all that was needed and required for some amount of that karma to be balanced. Maybe it's all karma, I don't know. Like, you got to really ask the Kundalini to go in and find out, or just tell you, what's going to happen if I try to heal that. Just make sure you know before you do any of these kind of healings that you know the karmic implications of doing that kind of thing. there are ways you can heal those things in heightened states of consciousness in a very safe way. If you're using things like ayahuasca or other psychedelics, they can be very, in combination in particular with mantra, like chanting, they can be very strong and very powerful, and that can really help give you the extra strength and energy that you need in order to burn off certain amounts of karmas in powerful ways, just through the sheer energy that you have. I mean, you have a lot of power. I mean, the Kundalini is a infinite well of power, and there's ways that to a certain degree she can help you with balancing those karmas through transmuting them, because they're just like any other energy or form of matter. They can be changed from one form into another, but they can never be destroyed. They're always being transformed into different forms. And it's the same with karma too. That can be changed into different forms. You can use mantras for that. You can use all sorts of different things for that. But there's only a certain degree that you can accomplish at any given moment, depending on your state of being and depending on the divine, the Kundalini within you, etc. So I mean, if you're trying to heal people in mass, and like let's say you're doing an entire country, and you're trying to heal people, or even maybe the whole planet or the multiverse, depending on how you pray for that, and depending on how you, let's say, write it out. If you're doing, say, an Amakur prayer, which I've done personally, and I ended up basically taking upon myself all the pain and suffering and all the fears and all the egregores and all the egregores of fear and belief in Satan and evil and demons, and I tried destroying all of that as well. And basically what happened is all of those things ended up jumping into me, and I ended up burning that out, and there had to be basically an entirely new alternate multiverse created. Actually, you could say it's like an alternate dimension, but it was like an alternate multiverse was created. It was like the multiverse split into like a cells dividing in an alternate reality, and there was a time warp bubble that was basically created around my house in order for space and time and all of the multiverse that currently existed, in order for that to survive. And what I ended up going through was basically learning about how karma worked, and I had an opportunity given to me where I could burn for infinity, literally, all the negative stuff going on in the multiverse for infinity. And if I were to have gone through that, I mean, gosh, I don't know what could have happened. As long as you're still alive, you have the opportunities and choices to change, and if you've made any kind of agreements like that, it's possible that you can get rid of those as well. But what I really highly recommend people do is not go there to begin with, because, well, what I learned in the end anyway was that people recreated all of that pain, all of that suffering, and all of those beliefs and everything anyway, because half of the meaning of life basically in the multiverse disappeared. These polarities and these dualities, seeming dualities anyway, have a purpose, and they're there to maintain some form of balance, and you wouldn't know one without the other very much. I'm not saying it's an absolute. But I mean, all this pain, all this suffering, I mean, it's there for a reason. It allows people to even live and exist. It allows them to even be. There's a reason for pain to exist. It's there so people don't make mistakes, the same mistake twice, hopefully. So what I learned from all this experience is people recreated it anyway, and the multiverse, the multiverse I was living in anyway expanded, and everything I learned about basically changed. And it's a very long story, and I'll go into that maybe in another video. But what I learned from this experience was the value of all of these things, basically. Like, I learned the value of pain, the value suffering. I learned the value of Satan and the demons and all this stuff because people wanted it in the end anyway. They recreated it. Whether or not it was real, they wanted that, to be able to say that is Satan, that is of the devil, that is evil, and this is me here, and I am this, or something like that. It's a way of projecting. People put that and they anthropomorphize upon something outside themselves in order to project those aspects of creation basically onto a singular object and saying that is of this and I am of that. And yeah, I took all those kind of things away from people, and yeah, there was no way for people to even live that way. I mean, that's all part of the balance of life. It's just part of life. I'm not trying to say that everything has to be absolute either. I'm not trying to say that. There's golden ages, there's dark ages, there's the highs and there's the lows, and they happen over very long periods of time. Sometimes they can happen in short periods of time, and I believe we can make a golden age happen here if we want to. It's up to us as individuals to change ourselves, and it's possible for us to do that in a huge way as well on Earth, depending on how people go about it and depending on how they do it. And I realize there's a lot of people out there who may be very afraid and fearful about our future and thinking, well, human beings, maybe they feel are nothing but a cancer on this earth. And they feel like there's no way for human beings to reconcile and come into some kind of harmonious balance. And yeah, where there is no vision, people will not really necessarily find a way or seek to find a way, very much. They will anyway. They'll find a way, but it may not be something as pleasant and beautiful. And there's a way that we can coexist and live on this planet with every single human being on this earth. It doesn't matter who they are. And we're reaching an age now in human evolution where I'm sure a lot of these people realize that now, that we're all sharing this planet together, and there's more than enough room for everyone. And there's more than enough resources for everyone to coexist here. And it doesn't matter who you are and how rich or poor you are. Every single human being can contribute to bringing this world into a more beautiful balance. And it's not necessarily up to us, and I'm not expecting that, the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers are going to be listening to this program. But I do realize, though, my prayers have the capacity to go around and influence people like that, too. And anybody, no matter who they are, if they have a positive, intention, and it's something that's healthy and highly moral and safe for everything and everyone everywhere. And if they're going to try to implement something like that, well, and they have the power to do that, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem, no matter who you are, what you are. If you're a beautiful human being, or even if you're not from Earth, let's say, or you're, it doesn't matter to me who you are. I don't care who you are. If you're doing something positive, and you're doing something that's beautiful, and it sincerely is non-harmful to everything and everyone else everywhere else, and it's very balanced and healthy, and I mean that in a literal. Okay, some people get hurt when they don't see others in pain, maybe, yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like, things that don't cause others harm in any way, anything that, any sane human being anywhere would want. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. And I know that it's possible for anyone to come up with these ideas and implement them themselves. We can literally move asteroids away from the Earth if the Earth and all of life on Earth is threatened. If there's another nuclear disaster or something like Fukushima, we can clean that up through prayers, through mantras. We can push that into the stones so that, they're deep in the rock and they'll break down over many, many, many millennia. Tens of thousands of years, millions of years, however long that needs to. You can do that in war zones, even if you want to. You can pray for that the fallout will go into stones. If people have karma, they'll get it from somewhere else, they'll get it however they need. But you're just getting rid of the inanimate objects and other things that have been placed there by human beings that don't necessarily have to be there. You can get rid of that shit too. You can pray that stuff will be pushed into rocks if you want to go that route. And there's other forces that, I believe are here to help maintain a balance on this earth, and I don't think we can literally absolutely get rid of it and destroy it. some people might fantasize about that and believe that because their megalomania or their psychopathy may encourage them to go that route a little bit. But maybe they feel there's so much pain and suffering in the world or in themselves that they don't want to even live. That can happen to people for a little while here and there. But you got to realize that your powers, what you dish is what you get, and you have the ability within you to prevent a lot of the problems we see in this world. When it comes to nuclear disasters, again, we already live on a planet that has had more than a global thermonuclear war worth of testing done with nuclear bombs all around the world, and that's all floating around everywhere already. And yeah, there's ways you can clean that out. You can use your prayers and mantras. You can use things like zeolite clay and bentonite clay, and that will clean that stuff right out of you. Iodine 131, well, that's different. Yeah, that stuff can get lodged in your thyroid. That can be healed. The divine can get rid of that easily if it wants to, and you can use your mantras and things to get rid of that too. That kind of thing, I'd pray for that to go in the stones. That breaks down very quickly. That's one way to deal with it. But yeah, you want to be mindful and make sure you're praying for things so that you're doing it in a healthy way for this earth and all living things. So you don't want to just and oil spills, okay, like that kind of thing requires a little bit more maybe human intervention and or divine intervention. And those kind of things are pretty huge and they're very noticeable. And if you're just taking all that and throwing it away, it's like a miracle. And yeah, if you wanted to, you could probably do that yourself too. You could try. I don't know where you'd want to push that. Maybe push it back into the earth where they're pulling oil out of. Like just push that back into the oil wells where that are safe and where there's no potential for that to break. You can also pray for all the oil wells that they won't get damaged or destroyed in the oceans. Like you can put out prayers that all of the oil wells in the oceans are going to be protected by divine power, and they will never have any huge issues or breakdowns. The thing is it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. Oil is there for a reason. We use it for everything, and if you didn't have that, half of everything that you can imagine would disappear. And yeah, maybe some people like that idea, and that's their choice if they want to live that way. But there's a lot of people on this earth. We can live in harmony. There's nothing wrong with petrochemicals, and burning that just basically feeds all the plant life on Earth anyway. They breathe more energy in. It helps with creating more topsoil. It helps with creating more living plant matter. Like poisons, let's say, things like any kind of real seriously toxic poisons, you could push those deep into the stones or deep into the crust of the earth in areas where they're safely stored so that they're not going to basically harm anything. You can literally push those into stones if you really want to. If you have the right cities, if you have the right powers, you could do that. You can literally push that. You could spend an hour like every day pushing those chemicals and toxins deep into the stones, the earth. And of course there's the whole idea of, well, then how are people going to change? Well, you're doing it anyway. It's not like it has to be that way entirely. And things like rubber and all these other things, well, eventually if you want to pray for people to come up, anyone who's searching or seeking to create and develop technology that's able to transmute or break down perfectly in an efficient way any form of petrocarbon perfectly in a very powerful and like the best ways imaginable. It could be based in nature, which already has the capacity to do that kind of thing. It could be based in technology, even. It could be either way. It doesn't matter as long as it's healthy and helpful and it's not going to hurt anyone, so that we can transmute and recycle literally everything on this earth that we've been wasted, or we wasted, and eventually we'll be able to get all that stuff and clean it up. And to a certain degree, machines will be partially responsible for some of that. If people feel like they have to go that route, they can create machines that go out and collect all the trash and garbage and move it into one place where it's all recycled. Human hands are not a bad idea either, but the thing is the more human hands are, say, like even engaged in, let's say, organic farming, that's going to create far more work because they're taking out the pesticides, in the pesticide industry, which are responsible for removing, and same with heavy machinery and all that. is responsible largely for removing the human from the workforce, right? So the human beings are no longer in the workforce. They're no longer is engaged in that. All these machines are doing that for them, and it may end up saving money to a certain degree. But I mean, in the long run, you're destroying nature. You're killing yourself. Basically, you're destroying yourself. You're killing yourself. You're destroying all of life, not just yourself, but other things. You're creating a lot of negativity and bad karma. And I mean, if people want to have work and the ability to do work, and if there's enough demand for organic, healthy food, then people are going to want to do that. And I foresee in the future that's going to be a huge movement and wave that'll happen. There's already certain companies, some of the CEOs of Costco, I believe, are in the process of developing the very first fast food chain in the United States, in the West, for strictly organic food. These things are happening, and Russia's banning GMOs, they're banning Monsanto, they're not allowing any of that into the entirety of their country. And so these kind of things are very, very dangerous to life, very dangerous to human beings. But these things too can also be changed through mantra. You can change the karma, and that way you're also helping other people, so they're not going to go through as much negative karma as well for what they're dishing out to some degree, in some level or another, on some level where they're somehow influencing that negative aspect of the whole food industry. Petrocarbon industry, however you want to look at it. Money industry, whatever, all of these things, they're trying to make money, and they're multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're doing whatever they can, and in the end, even they are not going to be able to destroy this earth. Where human ingenuity is concerned, there's going to be a lot of alternatives and things brought up, and things are going to change, man. Things are going to change. People will change. We're going to keep changing, and we can do that in a very healthy and symbiotic and a peaceful way, and they will probably want to do that too. I mean, when they realize that all these people are changing and going off onto these other areas of food and organic stuff, they're going to eventually want to change and make money. They're going to realize money is in, and our futures and our very lives are dependent upon us doing things in a healthy and happy way. And I don't think there's any real limit to the possibilities of us going in that direction, really, if we want to keep going in that direction and creating more beauty and love and an ability to live in harmony with this earth. There is many ways that we can do that, and it is certainly possible. And so I just want people to realize that and understand that within themselves. And if they can do these prayers and do them in a way that is safe and healthy, and or what other people want, that is worthy of themselves and others, and that's not going to hurt anyone anywhere or cause any negative problems for anyone anywhere. And if there's people out there who have a problem with, maybe they feed off negativity and hatred and whatever, I mean, they can find other ways then. They'll find better ways and healthier ways too, and they can change as well and live a more healthy life in ways that they may have never even dreamed or understood that they can actually have and hold. So yeah, please keep all of these different things in mind and realize that we really do have the power to keep things here on Earth in a more balanced and more beautiful way. And as long as you're not taking away others' free will, that is safe for everyone, and that you're karmically safe, and that whatever solutions that you're wanting and hoping that other people will come up with are fully ethical and safe and healthy for everyone everywhere, and it's not going to cause harm for this earth or for each other or anything like that. And you can do things in amazing ways. We can get together, we can do chants and prayers in virtual settings, and sooner than later we're going to be able to do that. There's going to be all kinds of things where we can get together, and one of us will be standing in the middle of like a coliseum or something, or a theater, and we'll see all images of each other everywhere, and we'll be able to get together and sing. I know how Kundalini people are. They're not all in one place typically. We're all over the world. We're scattered everywhere. And I mean, if you want to get together and start a group like that, we could do that. We could create things and make things happen in this world in the most beautiful and lovely ways you can imagine. So yeah, there are ways for us to certainly manifest a beautiful balance in nature, and these things are already existing, and it's already resonating in the ethers, and all of this stuff is there, and it is just a matter of time. And Mother Nature herself, even too, knows best as well. If you want to go that route and just think and just trust in Mother Nature and trust in the balance of all things, that is beautiful as well. Instead of fearing and thinking everything's going to go the wrong way. I know things will adapt and change as well. Mother Nature has a way, and I see it taking place everywhere around me. I see how all kinds of life forms are showing up here that I've never seen before, and insects and all kinds of things, and life is changing, and that's just part of the natural evolution of a higher species on a planet that has the ability to move around and transport all over the earth. That's part of the balance, is the fusion, the mixing of species, the blending of different animals, and that will come to a natural balance eventually anyway. There's nothing to fear there. People trying to stop things by going out and murdering and killing all these other critters that are spreading around and potentially causing a problem. Maybe to some degree that's a good thing, but at the same time, typically human responses to a lot of the disasters out there can be just as equally devastating to a lot of the problems we have. And so, what you're praying for is certainly not going to be anything that's contributing to that. You want to make sure that you're praying for if you're praying the way I have suggested in this video, all it's going to be doing is bringing in more novelty and beauty to those who want it and are seeking that anyway. And then they're going to get more and more of that in their lives, and it could be for every life form, even on Earth. And you're just creating more beauty for them, and you're all the energy you're putting into that there for them is going to help them out. And depending on your skills, depending on your powers, depending on your cities and etc., will determine to whatever degree that will have an influence on everything on Earth. And everything here wants to live, typically anyway, unless they're going through a lot of suffering or who knows what's going on there. So what I recommend people do is really just be mindful about how they pray. Even some of the more seasoned teachers out there say that the Kundalini person takes the risk of incurring the karma of others. And if you don't know how to deal with that risk, or if you don't know how to avoid that, then I recommend you use those prayers. If you've made a deal and you're certain, and if you know the karmic implications of everything you're doing already, then you're not going to be doing anything you shouldn't. Some people may not even want to go that route for praying and trying to change things for others in any way, and that's safe too. That's their choice. Everyone has a personal choice here. But for healers, you want to be mindful if you want to live a healthy and balanced life, to make sure that what you're doing is something safe for yourself and others. And if you really want to go that route and you really want to hurt and burn other people's karma, you're going to learn what that means, and eventually you're going to find your way out of that no matter what. You will eventually find that out. It might take many lives, it might take 1,000, it might take 1,000,000 lifetimes, but eventually you're going to come back and you're going to realize something's going on here, and you're going to want to change. You're not going to want to go back again. I can guarantee you that. It's not like somebody, That's why I recommend, you listen very mindfully to certain things that teachers say can help a lot in certain circumstances anyway. It's nothing, and you yourself will learn a lot of things as well. Everything is different for different people typically, but I mean, if you have anything you can contribute, the internet is here. Kundalini is like the unified name for every form of spiritual, everyone has a different name for it. They might call it God, and they might all say, oh, God is this spiritual unity thing, but Kundalini is the Shakti, it's Shekinah, it is this Holy Spirit in Christianity, it is the Oolong in, I think that's Tibet, or in China there's another name, in the Amazonian basin they call it the Red Serpent. You see it depicted in the artwork going back thousands of years in many cultures spread across the entire earth, in cultures that never knew one another, that were everywhere around the world. You see the caduceus, you see the pine cone at the end of the staff, you see that with the serpents wrapped around it, and that is something that you can see everywhere around the world in many different cultures who were separated by time and space. We have the new unifying principle that will bring different cultures and different people together. And when people recognize what they have and they come back, they're going to know that one of the terms, anyway, that they can call it is Kundalini, and they'll look that up on YouTube, and they'll find pretty much everyone out there who's a teacher on YouTube. They'll find it, and they'll find this information. And the more there is of this information out there, the more people will be able to learn and make the definitive choices for themselves. They'll learn and they'll say, okay, well, I'm going to do this. They will choose for themselves how to respond to whatever it is they're hearing or seeing, and that's very helpful. People have the choice to do what they want to do. So it's up to every one of us to choose for ourselves in the end what we want to do with these kind of skills. And I just highly recommend people do it in a safe, healthy way that's not going to hurt themselves and others, as best as you can. And that's really all. I mean, I've been through this for a very long time, and I'm back, and I'm here to try and help people, and I'm here to tell them, like, if you don't want to go through what I went through, then please be very mindful and careful, and talk to your Kundalini. And I mean, she's not going to necessarily, if you're hearing this right now, there's a reason for that, and she will give you the autonomy you need in order for you to change in certain ways. Now, there's the idea of give a healing, you get a healing, and that's true too. To a degree anyway. You might have something, but I mean, it's not like, if it's karmic in nature, somebody else might have to burn that anyway. So, I mean, I don't personally necessarily want people to take my karma upon themselves in any way, unless it's safe for them and it's something they can engage in and then engage out of when they choose, so that they're not like hurting themselves. If they want to do that, they can use mantras like Tirani Lakantam, Tirani Lakantam, Tirani Lakantam, or any prayers. I don't mind, as long as they're not trying to like take away my free will. I love helping out people that way, and if I'm around somebody and I feel like they might be low, I use those things. My energy itself alone might be so high up, and I might be feeling so healthy that just my very presence will bring them up, So please keep these things in mind, and really, really, really sincerely consider these, and realize that we do have the ability to make things much more beautiful on this earth. There's always a way. There's always a way. And people got to recognize the earth here, is been around for a very, very long time. There's been a lot of life on this earth, and there's a lot of karma because of the predatory aspects of creation. So whatever you were, at one point or another, you do end up harming things, intentionally or not, and or killing in order to live, in order to eat, in order to survive. And plants, typically don't have very much pain. It depends on the species. Some of them feel too. You want to be mindful of that. Maybe if you really want to go that far, you can be if you want to be. I mean, you can only avoid so much in life. Walking around in the bushes, I mean, I try not to hurt anything. I intentionally never step on or kill anything, because I know and I recognize the life that is. I try to help every living thing I can, and I try to save lives everywhere I can if I can help it. And that's one thing often teachers very, very much encourage ahimsa, to do no harm. And that will help everyone everywhere very, very, very much. And I encourage you to practice that kind of behavior and love others as yourself. That's a very good idea. And I understand how difficult that might be sometimes. We can literally move asteroids that could threaten the entire life of planet Earth, or all of the life that as it currently exists, and push them away from the Earth. We can create a future where humanity is finding the perfect way to find a balance with nature, so that we don't end up destroying the very home that we live in. And that's the beauty, and that's the amazing quality that the divine has within us. I mean, science can only take us so far. The rest is all like evolution unfolding without any like science actually has a lot of potential to make a lot of amazing discoveries, and a lot of that can be so helpful and help us find a way to manifest like a beautiful balance with this world. And there's ways we can do that. There's no limit to the possibilities of what we can manifest in this world in order to find a harmony and balance. And we are, as a species, moving out of that predatory way of living that we have for so long as creatures feeding off each other. In this age now, with the technology we have, with the experience we have, with the knowledge we have, we can manifest, and we have been manifesting new ways of living and living in harmony with the planet. You just put it out there, like, whoever is really interested in finding out solutions to these problems, I pray with these mantras that we will manifest something and a gift for this person to be able to come up with some amazing ideas if they want that. If they want that. And there's ways we can get that done in huge ways by praying that we'll find a way, and by through precipitation out of the cosmic mind, these things will come out and manifest before us, and we can help facilitate that process in a safe, healthy way, and really bring upon a golden age on this earth through these techniques and practices. So this will take place here eventually, and these things are the seeds for such possibilities, and these are already resonating in the ethers all over the place. I'm sure people are thinking about these kind of things, and people underestimate sometimes the power of the divine, the power of prayer, the power of positive intention, and where there is a vision, the people will find a way.